riled up, and then there's no consistency in any type of work after that. There is no end goal. And those are the people that care about themselves. They don't really care about actually trying to help people.
Yeah, because even when we talk about classism, we're talking like people living check to check. Sometimes what's disheartening to me about our hometown is that one, my mindset be it's slumlord. So I'll just leave. I'll find something else before I rent. But they'll have the mindset of they'll keep renting and then they'll complain about light bills. And in my mind, I'd be like, well, if you add that light bill, which Griffin does not give you no leeway, you got to pay or you don't have no lights. If you can do that every month and pay the lights and the rent, you can live anywhere and have a better house, area for your kids. But mentally, the mindset, they don't understand that. It's like, why leave when it's great here? It's like, oh, okay. Well, then after that, what do you do?
And that's what I said too when Jamila had posted it in her little community forum, and I'm like, nothing's gonna change because every month y'all get on here complaining about the utilities, but you still go and pay. Okay, you're not filing a complaint with the state attorney general. You're not doing anything beyond it. You're not holding your landlord responsible because of the slumlords. You're living in these houses that are old, that do not have energy efficient appliances, that are single pane windows instead of double pane windows, no insulation. And that's a part of your problem, right? The washer and dryer is 20 years old. And people don't understand that. Like, you have to start there and then work your way out. And I was telling people, start with your landlord first. If that's not the issue, get an assessment from the city of Griffin. If they're just gonna say it's not on them, then you keep going up the chain. Don't just stop at, oh, my light bill's $800, but I'm gonna go ahead and pay it anyway. Like, what kind of sense does that make? It doesn't.
Yeah. Sometimes the lack of mindset, right? Sometimes people can be thriving and don't know, but they're still stuck in a lack mindset or a struggle mindset, and it's hard to get away from that.
Or even feeling, I think, disempowered. Like not owning, what they can change, or even like fully understanding that they can change the system. Just feeling so disconnected. Yeah, feeling so disconnected, disenfranchised. Disempowered. That's what I think, and it shows up in in apathy, and I think that's what we see a lot of.
I think that some of it is, it's the mix between ignorance and also learned helplessness. Like, we struggle to teach other people how to do for themselves. Like, we go to school and we're in school for 13 years, kindergarten through 12th grade, automatically, where someone is telling us what we're supposed to know. They're telling us how to learn it. They're telling us what to write. They're telling us what to regurgitate, but they're not telling us how to solve the problems.
That's very true too. And the other thing is, we as a people, we don't like things that would necessarily be the harder way to do it. A lot of people look for the easier way to cope with things. I've just never seen, and this is just me, with my work for the past couple of years, is why is it that we hate paperwork? Why? That's with everything. That's with job applications. Like, we really hate paperwork. We hate it.
They don't hate paperwork because they use paperwork when they do stuff that they ain't supposed to be doing.
Oh, the scam.
Paperwork. It just is what is it that they really want. If you really want it, you can do it. If you don't really want to be bothered, you just don't do it.
Good point.
I think a lot of us who have fear, because you got to think about it. We were talking about like the generations from 40s, 50s, 60s, depending on how that family got through like the Great Depression and things of that nature, I've noticed a lot of people have fear that it's a potential that they might struggle. There's a potential that it might be difficult.
Right.
And then they just stay content with what it is. And they'll continue complaining and they know it's not right and they don't like it. But it's like, I don't know about the unknown. So I'll just stay complaining and what I do know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that you've got that, but then you've also got people who are scared of failure. Like, it's easy, like, so you see this in the classroom. You know, the bad kid in class is typically a kid who's struggling to read or struggling to do math, because it's easier to say, oh, I didn't try, and to play it off and be dismissive rather than to try and to fail.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's how I see it sometimes when you're working with people. They'll be like, but what? You're right, feeling like, but what if I lose my home? Girl, you can get another one. But what if I lose? Like, who cares if you lose? You can get another one. The thing is, you don't even know if you can maintain it or keep it if you don't try.
Right.
You know, but what about that car note? It's too high. Well, you need a car, right? And you're looking for a reliable one. What if I can't afford it? It's something about getting bills, and once you get them, you find a way to pay them. Like people buy our hometown lights. They found a way to pay them because they need lights.
That is true.
But I just think sometimes because it's not the normal. You know, I always say we always make our new normals when we go through something because it's not their current normal.
Right.
It seems like it's impossible.
Right. 90?
That's why I'm kind of a little iffy on the classism thing, because now in this current time, I don't necessarily think it's a huge gap if we're looking at other races, but amongst ourselves, I think a lot of us really wouldn't be that poor if we actually knew where to direct our money to.
Right.
And how we can weigh out what is the better option.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think some people, they'll say, like, this is me, this is real life. People will be like, oh my God, you bought that house, why did you do that? Well, I was paying rent in an apartment for the same price.
Right.
You know, I'd rather have my own home than to pay rent. But for some people, they're just like, well, I'm in an apartment and I think that's safe because a home is expensive, not knowing it's the same price.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mindset shift.
Miss Pointer?
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't know what the question was. You guys were with the initial.
Oh, we just ragging on chapter 13.
Okay. About classism and
materialism and all that.
Well,
I don't know. I always felt like growing up some of the materialism in the show kind of vibe within Black culture was based around one, that like that being intrinsically part of who we are, like liking to be colorful and loud and dress up and have all the, you know, the outer kind of look, bling, if you will. But I think also it comes from kind of wanting to feel good about ourselves in the now, in terms of not sometimes having those bigger investments like homes or money in your family, or you know what I mean? So it's like we're almost kind of trying to put on a face that we're all good, but we don't really have anything solid. Which to me flows back to like the whole not wanting to do paperwork. I mean, it can seem like a small thing, but to me it speaks to like not really within our culture knowing business in the same way that some other cultures do. So you could say like, why wouldn't someone want to get a house instead of just renting an apartment? But maybe they don't really know the steps about how to save in their credit, or they haven't been given any financial management skills, or how much of their check they should try to save, or been able to have a foundation of a savings to support them in saving money after that, or all that kind of stuff. So I think all that plays into our, you know, showing materialism and all that kind of stuff. And then not having a foundation of what we can invest in, I think.
Right.
Exactly.
We just invest in ourselves, and the whole culture has brainwashed us to think like that shows success. if you always have your hair done, if your nails are done, if you have a couple injections and your boobs are the right size, you know, then you can have it all, you know. So I think it just breeds into being more focused on the outer, you know, and even if you don't feel good inside, you look good on the outside.
Right. I agree. I think totally, you know, we don't teach our kids finances a lot of times, and, you know, just as a whole. And like you said, I think a lot of it is just, it's systemic, and it's not having the education. And so that's why I think we act and move, because a lot of times we're just reproducing what our parents did, you know, and we believe we can't save money. I know, you know, I have friends like that, you know, and we just get our paycheck, some of us, not all of us, you know, and we just spend it, and we don't save any of it whatsoever, but that's what we saw our parents do. Right. So I think that's where we have a lot of gaps. You know, it's just like the lack of knowledge, or like, again, being empowered to know that, you know, we can make, you know, wise financial choices. Because I do agree. I think Monique said that, you know, we have a lot more money, you know, than we think we have. We do. We do. We actually have a lot of economic power. But we can't recognize that.
Right.
Now, I read somewhere, and it was years ago, so I don't remember where I read it, but it was talking about basically the mindset and the cultural mindset, and how the Black community is so focused on the right here and right now, because there was a time period in which that was all that they had. So we were never taught to think about the future. It was always, you know, the future may not be guaranteed, so you might as well live it up now. Whereas other cultures are taught, you know, save for the future, plan for the future. You know, you look around and you'll see situations where, like, the richest man in the room is wearing cat heads and dad jeans and an old t-shirt, but the poorest man in the room got on new J's and $300 jeans and a polo. And it's just different concerns. It's different focuses and different priorities.
Right.
And sometimes I wonder if that does go back to our, in mentally, subconsciously, our oppression, and thinking that maybe something might happen, you know, and we won't be here, so let's just live it up and give it all now, instead of having a calmer long-term. You know, you even see sometimes in university environments, maybe the Caucasian students might get married sooner. You look at the statistics of Black women getting married, and that kind of trajectory, I think, comes from stability. You know, and so when you don't have stability, that's what you say in the book too, even when you wrapped it up, like that family foundation, somehow that's just getting decimated after the 60s. I think it just took a really hard hit.
Right.
That we're building back from now. That's how I see it.
Right. I agree. And I just think that, you know, oftentimes there are, you know, we always talk about being self-made in this country, but, you know, it's not unusual if you work in real estate to know that a lot of times, you know, if you're working with clients of different race, not African-American, but they'll come in with a gift from a family member, you know, $50,000, $100,000, you know, and how many of us do you know that are able to come in with a gift from a family member like that? You know, it just doesn't happen. And so, like, again, you know, that's just one of the advantages that, you know, that they've been given, not all the time, but a lot of times that we don't have. So we can't even envision that.
Right.
And I was going to say, like, and when they look at what Jasmine was talking about in social work, we always call it a poverty mindset, you know. And that's, you know, an actual studies on that, and how people, like you said, kind of spend and live for today, you know, in the moment, instead of looking at the future.
Right.
Any other thoughts about chapter 13?
I was gonna agree with what y'all are saying. Every time I was gonna say something, somebody else said it. But
No, same. I was gonna say, a lot of times when I was working at the restaurant, people would come to me and try to get me to like, a lot of black people who kind of had more money, they were basically in a higher tax bracket than me, would be like, do you want to do this forever? And I'm like, no. And they're like, okay, well, they try to give me like a business card or something like, well, basically where I have to invest money. And at the time I'm thinking, okay, I can't afford to do this. Like I technically could have, but it's just that fear of why would I take a gamble here when I don't know if it's gonna work out. I just keep going the way I've been going. And like the house versus apartment thing, I always tell people, yeah, I don't wanna get a house because, that comes with its own damages. I'd rather get an apartment. Somebody else is responsible for fixing my stuff. But a friend did bring up to me this year, they were like, yeah, well, when you think about it though, a house is an investment. It's something that you could leave to your next generation. It's something you always have, you can fall back on if you need to do anything with, so like, it's a house, it's yours. And I was like, you know what, that's true. And I wish I would have kind of tried to invest in my future at the time, but I was so like, like I was like frozen, like I just can't take that risk because it's not right now. I'm not thinking about that far ahead. I'm thinking about right now. Even now, when I make more money, I want to save, but it's harder to save because for some reason I racked up more bills when I got more money. But it's and I'm like, yeah, okay, I need to save money for tuition, and every time it's like you're always trying to work on what you have, what's in front of you, and never really what's ahead of you. So yeah, I definitely get that. It's a goal oriented thing. Most of us are not good at having goals and visions, and we're just like, I need to work for what I need right now and make that work.
Right.
And hope we hit the lottery.
We all want to hit the lottery.
Like, Lord, if you give me that $2,000, I'll invest it.
Oh my goodness, that's too funny. But yeah, I agree. That's a very valid point. What about chapter 14 when he was talking about the relationship dynamic and the divisions that get created between Black men and women?
I had to read that chapter twice.
Yeah, there was a lot to unload.
It was, because it's almost like he talks about, the risks of traditional marriage, of whenever he starts talking about basically people need to have personal contracts between couples instead of doing like legal marriages because it eliminates the risk for the man. And because I ended up writing at the end, is he anti-marriage or is he anti-alimony and child support?
Right. That's what I was trying to figure out too.
Because it almost sounds like he is trying to mitigate risks of getting married in order to make it safer to be married. And I don't, it was just a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot to unload. I felt the same way you did too. But then after I read it the second time, I'm like, okay, when he's talking about, we all know the divorce statistics, and I think he was kind of going along the lines of, because of the type of division that we have within the household, this leads us to that point, to that 50% point, with the way that men and women are interacting with each other. And when he talked about economic castration on behalf of the man, and also looking at the dynamics of how do these relationships go wrong. And he talked about, our idea of independence going into these types of arrangements. And I think I don't know. It's just he had some valid points, but at the same time, I was still trying to figure out where he was trying to go with it.
Yeah, I'm with y'all. I was confused. I was like, are you saying we shouldn't get married so we can wow, how I don't know. But I get it though.
Right. So we just stick to civil unions and not get the man involved because he said that's who we're making the contract with.
Right. But he does remind you to get it notarized, so it'll stand up in court if you ever need to go there. I don't know. I feel like this one tied in really closely with chapter 15. And I don't know, like I've got a ton of notes, like I said, between 14 and 15. It was just, I guess, looking at it, and he talks about like the male castration. He talks about how the government and legal marriage basically benefits the woman, and the woman takes over that masculine power because she has the ability to say, you know, to basically tell her man what to do, especially if there are kids involved, because you can put him on child support or you can do all these other things. And I guess it almost phrases it like he says that that's an emasculating part, like that's what the Black man fears, and that's why he runs from marriage.
Yeah, I didn't really agree with him. He kind of reduced it to just an economic partnering. He said that, you know, he didn't base it on any kind of spiritual basis and how that could be beneficial. It seemed like he was just kind of, I don't know, bitter, I don't know, or just kind of against it.
Right.
That's what I
think I kind of was getting what he was trying to say. For the longest, I didn't agree on marriage licenses either, only because that they're controlled by our government. However, marriage is business. People say marriage is love. People say marriage is whatever, but it's a business. That's why the government makes you get a license. That's why they tell the partnership how they can divide, like a corporation, an S corp or a C corp. You have partners in a business. So I think what he was trying to say is don't allow what he wants to call the white government to tell you what you need to do in your household.
Right.
You two create your own contract of what you're committing to in the Black family without somebody else coming in and telling you what it is that you need to do. And that's true. Sometimes if you think about foster care, I used to be a foster parent, and it used to blow my mind some of the things they used to do. And I was like, I thought you were working for the kids.
Girl.
And you were working for family unity.
Yeah.
You did everything but that. You would even put kids in homes that, to me, they were getting treated worse in the foster care system than they were at home. But the foster care system was a business. The longer they kept the kids, the more money they got.
That's true.
So I kind of, if I'm understanding what he's saying, I feel like that's what he's talking about when he's in this chapter. Like, if you're going to have a business, create your own. Don't give it over to the white government.
Well, I think.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, because I was looking on page 101, one of the notes that I wrote is that he is pro-entrepreneurship, pro-Black economy, and Black independence. And I think that is what he's pushing for. It's almost like he's pro-segregation almost. And that was one of the things that I wanted to pose as a question is, because I do believe that there needs to be a system built within the Black community to recycle that money and to keep that money in and to lift up and to empower. But at what extent, like at what point do you have to remerge with America and with the government and in order to continue to be here and to truly thrive?
That's a very good question.
Yeah, I definitely think he's for pro. I think you mentioned it too, like not necessarily pro segregation, but like he wants us to kind of be apart. Well, yeah, be apart from the main from the white man's system. But that was the thing on even with marriage. No matter what, that's the problem. We're attached to the system. And when he mentioned on page 103 about, he was like, for example, the hip hop industry was created and pioneered by black men without judgment. Da, 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 da. And he was like, even though it was us and massive negativity, hardcore street artists have attention. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. And created a multi-billion-dollar clothing industry. Blah 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 blah. Basically, he was saying that they've created a industry for them that empowered. It seemed like he was saying like empowered them and gave them wealth. But that's the thing. Even the hip hop industry is run by a white corporation. Nothing we do is ours, and when it is, it gets taken. So it's we have no choice but to suckle from the breast of America because we're in this system. Like he was saying, like there's nobody else in our position anywhere else in the world. What are we supposed to do? We don't have a blueprint. We don't know. Like there's no way to kind of separate ourselves without becoming terrorists, I guess, to the country or becoming apart from America and them looking at us like, oh, so you don't want to be a citizen anymore. Like it's just weird.
Right. I get it. Yeah, I totally agree. The other thing I was thinking about in reference to this was about the group that purchased all of those acres of land in Toomsboro, Georgia, to start is Freedom, Georgia. And, a lot of people were saying, yeah, governance, by us in a community that was built for us. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. But what happens when you step outside of there? When you decide to travel somewhere else, you're still subject to the exact thing that, you're trying to shield the community away from. So I think, it's like, I don't think any of us has a good solution that we can, or any blueprint we can look at and tell us.
I don't think we can disconnect because our money is backed by
right
government. So that you would never be able to disconnect.
Right.
But a lot of us also don't know how to live off the land. Right. It sounds so foreign because we've integrated so much into their system. That if you start talking about growing food, people are looking at you like you're crazy. You're talking about canning food, they're looking at you like you're crazy. You talk about bartering, they look at you like you're crazy. You talk about trade skills, people are like, what? I went to college to be teacher, lawyer, doctor, nurse. I don't know anything about fixing an air conditioner or working on a car or putting all the wires in to build a house. Like, think about how many Black people that we know. You're like, okay, I want a house built. I do have my money, but I want to get the builder, and they're going to do it from the pouring of the foundation to the end results.
Right.
When that was something that used to be normal.
Right.
When they took trade away, I think it started in my year when I went to 9th grade. When they took the trade option away when kids were going to school, I think that really put us more into their system of not being able to live away from the government standards.
They had trade in like regular school?
When we were in school, you had the option to graduate with a trade school degree. You graduated with a college prep degree, or you could have graduated with both. So those kids would go to like Griffin Tech or another technical school, and they would learn a trade while they were in school.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So a lot of kids, and then they got rid of it. It was like, okay, you just college prep.
Which everybody is not, we just have to be honest about it. Everybody was not and is not college material.
No, and then some people, that's not even your purpose. That's not even your natural gift. So when they took that from Black kids, I feel like that is what our people fell on. We're great. We built America. We're great at that. And then they said, we're going to get away with that and make you go to college.
And now it's going back to trade. So everybody was like, well, damn it. Make up your mind. What is it? So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think if that improves, in the next 2 generations, it's possible that you could create a system. Again, we'll still be on their money, but you'll still have a system that, okay, you need their money, but I still have my people that we could build all of this. That's how they built Black Wall Street. White people didn't come in and build that. Our people built the stores and the restaurants and had the cooks and the teachers and the lawyers. Like, that's the only way.
And I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is people change their mindset about getting those skills and leaving, instead of leaving, actually staying so that we can grow something like that. So we can have the doctors there. So we can have the lawyers there in the community.
I think a lot of that comes with cost of living, because I tell people all the time, I went to school to be a nurse, but over 50% of my class were not healers. That wasn't their calling. They were only nurses because they were like, when I finish this and I'm going to work for a year, I'm going to go back and get my master's, I'm going to be a nurse practitioner because I know I can make 6 figures. Right? And then if you tell them to come back to the community where people are either on Medicaid, which to me, if you're getting money from, you're still getting paid. But in their mind, it's like, okay, if I go back, I'm going to be living with them. What did I go to school for if they can't pay me or they have to pay me minimum because they don't make enough? And I'm trying to get the $300,000 home in the car. A lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to say, I went and learned a trade and came back and I'm still living in the same neighborhood with everybody else, but I'm helping them. Or I'm getting paid on the minimum end of what it is. That's a big mindset shift too. People are like, if I'm going to do that, I can just go work at a warehouse.
Good point.
But I think a lot of what he's saying is just to spark ideas. It's not about like overnight completely overthrowing the system. I think it's more about being conscious and intentional about what we can control and what we can do. And we're not doing that, at a certain level. So I think, like you said, if we could get into that mindset of, yes, supporting Black businesses, yes, growing our own food, starting our own businesses, those are the things that we can do. And like you said, who knows what the future is like, because then we're just laying the foundation for future generations. But I think it's just the idea behind his book is just planting seeds and challenging, thought process in our community. And then we can take some of it in, like, I don't agree with everything he says, some of it for me got out there a little bit. And I also felt like almost placing a lot of blame on women and Black women. I don't know. I felt like he wasn't in some ways very supportive of Black women. But, I think it's just about maybe, challenging mindset and then making changes where we can.
I agree. That was going back to, page 101 when he said there must be a specific type of influence education that stimulates spirit in Black men, causing them to control their own reality in the areas of civilized industries such as manufacturing, product distribution, marketing, engineering, agriculture, and total control of the political scene in the Black community. It's gonna have to start with education. Basically, that's gonna be the root of everything.
Yeah, on that same page, he says, today is defined by the average man through his economics, but in nature, it is his ability to be creative through the usefulness of his will to be self-productive. So basically that idea of we equate our economic status with our levels of success as opposed to our abilities. We undervalue education, we undervalue, like I said, the ability to do things, those skills, those trades. So regardless of kind of, I guess, what your thing is, like Monique was talking about, we each have our talent. And unless we are provided with an avenue to explore that and to expand it, then we end up becoming complacent and we get caught up in that rigmarole of every day, this is what I know, this is what I'm comfortable with.
Well, you know, it's a bad situation to be in too when somebody stunts your purpose.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That alone creates a mindset of what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Now you notice your little kids and they want to do something, you tell them no and you stop. And they're just really just exploring, but you know, some people say they have bad behavior and you stop. After a while, you'll see the change in that child, whether boy or girl. And then all of a sudden you're telling them later, go do something. And they're like, I don't want to do nothing. And then they're sitting around, they're playing games and stuff because you stunt their purpose. And I think, unfortunately, you know, some people talk about it where school is like the pipeline for training them to either work or go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think a lot of that comes into play too. You know, if you don't know, you don't know. So if it's never given to you, you don't even know that you're lacking knowledge and education because all you know is what is provided to you.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, this system was set up to last for 1,000 years or so. It's even when people become conscious of it, it's still going to take us a while to get everybody on this. It's going to take a while to flush it out of the system, like our systems and stuff. So it's always like we expect a quick fix. We expect to, you know, for people to change overnight and stuff. But since it's been handed down for generations, everything that we've been going through, even the divide and everything, it's gonna take so much more time to flush it out and to get us out of that mindset. It does seem almost impossible. Even now, you know, you see all the injustices happening racially and stuff, and we protest, we do. I mean, it's like repeating history, except I'm repeating the cycle because something's not getting through to my counterparts. It's gonna take a while for us to get it to recognize this and fix it, and then it's gonna take a while for us to kind of, if we wanted to, you know, fix it on the other end too. But yeah, at least when it comes to us changing the cycle, how we parent, how we do things, to an extent, it'll take a very long time to get that right because it's still gonna be trial and error.
I think that's true. I think that's very true. We're still fighting some of the same battles that they were fighting 65 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
If my internet goes out, it's going over here really bad.
Anybody else?
I'm trying to read my other notes.
Honestly,
you like me writing everything on.
I am a true English teacher when it comes to reading books. It don't matter what I'm reading, my pages are covered.
Yeah, honestly, I've never read a book like this before where it seems like I should be taking notes, and I'm like, I'll just remember it. And then when I'm like, you know, if we read another book like this, I gotta take notes because I'm used to just reading straight forward. And I was like, you know, this was it was a little bit difficult to read because of how he writes. But I mean, I got the gist of it. I mean, I do like it. I like reading.
Oh yeah, he definitely needed to hire an editor because
yeah.
Yes.
I can tell he just sent this straight to the press.
Very much so.
I thought it was just me. I was like, maybe everybody.
I'll be having to reread whole paragraphs. I'm like, what is he saying?
That's so funny.
But you know, even that alone, like how you're saying, oh my God, he should have sent it somewhere. But you know how many kids can't get their thoughts out because people stop them and say the grammar is not correct.
Right. And I give
our people.
the
you know
benefit,
what I'm saying?
right. I give them the benefit of the doubt. even though we had to read the paragraphs 5 times. He tried.
I mean, seriously, like, do you know how many geniuses are sitting around and nobody gives them the time of day because they read one paragraph or they listen to them talk and they shut them off because we're on a European standard of what being smart and intelligent is. Like, they said that. You don't even know if they're right. But because they said it's the right way to talk.
It is not.
Like, oh my God.
We are the bastards of written. Our English is not even correct.
No, it's not even correct. And it's just, just thinking about it, just listening to it, it's like we even have to get out of that if we want to grow. Yeah, like, you get on Facebook, like the Facebook police, grammar police, and it's like, shut up, you knew what they were saying. That's how you were able to correct them. Well, how did your aunt talk? How did your cousin talk? Okay, you knew what they said. Because we continue that with our own people, not saying that later on they won't learn, but if we continue that with our own people, then we're adding to the system.
That is very true. I know what my aunt is trying to say when she said "screet" and "strawberry." I know. So.
Well, that's like whenever you look at things like looking at Africa and they talk about every single country has its own language or its own dialect. Realistically, African American vernacular English has been recognized for years, but like you said, we are raised to be told that we talk wrong or it's not right. No, there's actually a syntactical structure to Ebonics. So you are speaking another language. And that's what I tried to encourage kids, like, because whenever I was teaching and I would have kids to say stuff, I would let them know, like, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong, but I am going to tell you that there's a time and a place for everything. And I would give kids examples. Whenever I'm with my friends, I don't talk like I talk in front of the classroom.
Right.
But kids have to learn to code switch.
And that's unfortunate because I stopped code switching. Because I learned that I would get in a room and listen to them and they don't be doing the right grammar. But we feel like we have to. Because we're still in that mode of, I got to work 5 times harder than a white person. They're not working 5 times. Do you want my knowledge? Yeah. Okay, well, you're going to get it.
Our grammar doesn't even matter anymore. We all
no
emojis now. That's the language. You talk through emojis.
And it's serious. Like, I used to code switch a lot. Even now, sometimes I catch myself and my brother would be like, oh, she must be on the phone with business because she sounds like a whole nother person. She is a person. But I had to learn when I got in rooms, they're not doing it. So why am I still self-conscious about who I am? I got invited in the room because I do know, so why I'm code switching.
Right. My family does it to me all the time. I had that conversation with Money before. Every time I come back home, they're like, oh yeah, we forgot you just got back. It won't even sound like yourself.
If we have to, I think a lot of times, as we're thinking about this entire book and the system, our voices were shut down. Our ancestors had masks put on their face so they couldn't talk. Their tongues were cut out.
Right.
Even when they didn't have great, quote unquote, English language, your voice meant something.
Right.
And so if anybody wants to speak up and you shut them up, because they might have said one sentence wrong or one word, why would they speak up again?
That is very true.
Sometimes you have to let people speak up to hear their voice, to recognize that, you know what, I am in control of my life. I do have something to say. And then later they may learn. But at what point, like, okay, we can keep reading this book and we can be doing stuff, but if people can't really speak their perspective and they're the only language that they know or grammar, like, how can we even really make change if they don't think their voice means it's not important?
Right. That's very true. What is going on today? All these pauses. We used to be was this too heavy? The last four were too heavy for us.
It's a lot. And I mean, just like Monique just said, like, I agree. I think that we do need to instill more pride in the language. And like I said, like whenever I talk about code switching, I would still tell kids, like I used to teach kids the syntax of Ebonics, because I was oftentimes, even as a high school teacher, the first teacher who told them that what you're doing is right. The reason that you understand, what your mom and your grandma and uncle are saying is because it is a language and there is a structure to it. And if there wasn't, then you wouldn't know what they were saying. But I think that it's important that we, build those voices. Like we were talking about with kids, and they're told to sit down and be quiet so much that they quit exploring. Like that's something that we have to work on fostering in our kids. We have to encourage them to, explore and to learn. And I think that that's kind of the message that he's trying to send as well. In that basically we have to start with the youth. And like you said, he does put a lot of pressure on the Black woman. I think it was is it Nandi or Nandi?
Nandi.
Yeah, Nandi.
I think it was Nandi that said it, talking about how it's almost like he's putting a lot of blame on the Black woman, because he points out, I guess, that she's the one who, and I hate that I missed last week because he hit on that a lot, how basically controlling her allows the system to control the Black man, who should actually be the head of household. And he reiterates that a lot as he's trying to set up the power structure in a home, as he's talking about the proper roles, and when he's talking about, the contracts instead of legal marriage. And I think that he is, the blatant terms, just trying to lay out that it is kind of the Black woman's job to come down and relinquish some of that power to put the Black man back where he's supposed to be in the natural order.
When you say it like that, I've read it. I knew that. I got that. And when I was reading it, I just tend to try to agree with him because he's the author. But once you think about it, if you are supposed to be the head of the household, you need to figure out your place first, so that we can have something to lead and to follow. If you're really truly supposed to be the head, it's not about us relinquishing power. It's about you finding yourself and finding who you are divinely supposed to be, and then using your gifts given to you to lead somebody, because it's a real leader leads people. I mean, you don't have to force your power over anybody, or nobody has to give up control or anything. We'll just naturally follow you because you give off the qualities of a leader. So even though we are fragmented through, we might, even though they use the women to fragment the home, it definitely kind of coming back full circle. It has to start with somebody being a leader, and the only reason we're still in that position is because we feel like it's because you're not doing it. So I think it starts with them when it comes to fixing it. I mean, kind of both of us, but them as well. And it's kind of hard if you're a single mom, but you have to get your boys in programs like, not YMCA, what is that called? Kind of like Boys and Girls Club or Big Brothers, or like if you need a male influence or somebody you trust that that you consider to be a leader, like we have to build those qualities in our kids if we're single parents, and teach them not to leave, which that burden does fall on us. But yeah, the men also have to step up and learn how to not leave as well. In my opinion.
Sandra?
Well, I was really kind of fixated on these, the last couple of pages of chapter 16, where he asked, the 3 questions that Black men need to take into consideration. Does she love you for you? Does she put her needs before yours? And I was wondering, did he mean that? Because it's almost to me that she put your needs before hers. I don't know his whole tone before, throughout this book.
Right.
So kind of,
I agree.
Yeah, I was a little thrown off by that when I had to read that 2 or 3 times. And does she inspire you to seek your creator? Because the tone has been, like I said before, very blaming towards women and not supportive. And so, I think he does have some valid points. The last person that was talking, we were talking about being a leader, and he does refer to men as being the sun, women being the moon, And, I can see some of what he was saying. I thought he got a little out there, like on 107, when he started talking about the signs and the astrological sciences. He lost me a little bit. I will admit, like, what in the world? But I see some of it, but I don't think he has a firm grasp on it, I wouldn't put it down.
This only works if a man does know himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, number 2 doesn't bother me. Does she put her needs before yours? It doesn't bother me because if he's a man who knows himself, he's putting your needs before his. So if you're putting your needs before him and he's putting your needs before his, it equals itself out. He's getting what he's needing. You're always being taken care of and giving what you need. It's just that most women haven't got that, or never seen it, or don't understand it. So as soon as they see, put my needs before his. Oh, no. Because a lot of times people don't get the man that will make sure everything is good for you before he's good.
Right. And it didn't bother me. I just thought maybe he wrote it incorrectly.
I don't think he wrote it incorrectly. The only thing I didn't get was when you were talking about the astrological signs, not that I don't get astrology, but I also know we all have a natal chart. So you're not always your sun sign.
Right.
You can be a Virgo, like I'm a rising Leo. So I show up sometimes more masculine because of a fire. So if you're not someone that's really into astrology, that would throw you off.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think, no, what I was thinking for that number 2, does she put her own needs before yours? He seems like the type of person, his voice throughout this, he would say, does she put your needs before hers?
Right.
Yes.
And that would be yes. But that's not how he wrote it. So that's what I was saying, that's not how he wrote. Because he almost seems like, does she put her needs before yours? That would be almost a selfish thing. The voice that he's had throughout this.
Yeah. See, I interpreted that question as basically her putting her needs above yours, as forcing you to step up to the plate and like not settling for subpar leadership within her household.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, he doesn't develop ideas very well, and so that's why I said you're left to guess. I put a lot of things out. He doesn't develop them, even with the logical thing. You throw out a paragraph and okay, we just leave it right there. But he just kind of throws out a whole bunch of ideas and doesn't develop them very well. So that's why I said we just have to wonder about that.
I think a lot of them too, like when he starts talking about male and female mythology, if you don't really study that stuff, I guess it makes more sense to me because it's something I look into, right? So for most people, if you're a woman, you only are taught feminine things, and nobody ever thinks about, do I have a masculine? Like we leave that to the man. But in truth, he's telling the truth. We all have a feminine and masculine energy, and they all come to play, especially when you're in a relationship. It doesn't necessarily have to be your husband or your man. It can be with your kids. It can be with a worker or a friend. Sometimes you're the leader, and sometimes you're sitting back and somebody else is leading.
Right. And I think with Black women, he's always saying that we have a very well-developed masculine side. I think we've heard that throughout the book.
Yeah, and I think we do.
You hear that very often. So
I think we do too. I think we do too, whether we like it or not. I think that it's a product of our, we're a product of our environment. We're a product of what we're exposed to.
Exactly.
Product of our ancestors. Yeah.
Product of our ancestors. So I think we do have more of a masculine energy at times, probably even subconsciously. You know, in terms of trying to work back to getting our femininity back. Like, I don't want to do it all by myself. You know what I mean? Just in terms of being able to make things shift around, I think it's part of what he's getting at. Like, there are some issues, and it's not even just the Black community, with marriage overall, with people separating and the legality of it and the property and the money, and, you know, and I think it's just like heightened in the Black community. Because
I think we do take on a role of, because, you know, everybody had Big Mama. Even though she might have had a husband, everything is about Big Mama. And what she says goes. Happy wife, happy life, right? We know what that means. She tells us what to do.
Yeah, personally speaking, like my Big Mama, because that's what we called her, passed, 4 years ago? And like my aunts have literally had to step in to help take care of my grandfather. Like, I mean, he went to work every day, he brought money home, but I don't think I realized how big of a role she played in literally doing everything in that household, because he didn't know what to do. Like, my aunts literally go in and make sure his bills are paid every month, and they make sure that the grocery shopping is done, and he will cook for himself, but he won't make a full meal. Like, Big Daddy will eat some beans and a piece of chicken and, you know, eat that for the week. So, but I think that y'all are right. Like, that's what we know. And I mean, even in dating, like, I'm 34 and still single. And I mean, I'm in a serious relationship now, but ongoing, and I used to say it jokingly, but realistically, I used to say, like, I'm tired of being the man of my house. Like, but the thing is that I need someone to show me that they can be a better man for my house than me before I can let my guard down.
I think that's the hard
that dynamic, I think, that we used to see from Big Mama growing up is something that people really don't have today, is because the man was taking care of the household. Like, his paycheck was taking care of all the bills. So, you know, she did stay at home and pay the bills, cook, clean, and watch after, you know, everyone. But when you have these households where the man and the woman are working, it's kind of also gotten away from that as well.
Yeah. And then we were talking about, like, the cost of living, and, you know, just statistically speaking, most women go and get higher education. A lot of our men, some still do, but some don't. And some of them, when they do, like, I was in a group, and him and his girlfriend graduated, and he was uncomfortable because she immediately got a job. He's still looking. Even though they both have a degree and they both just graduated. He's having a hard time getting a job after a year. And she got one, like, before they even got the diploma.
Yeah, I had that situation. Like, I was engaged whenever I graduated undergrad, and he had a really good internship, but this was 2008 when the economy was going down, and it was an internship that he took because they were known for hiring on their interns, and he should have been making like 6 figures coming straight out, but they didn't hire anyone that year. And I really contribute a lot of that to the demise of our relationship, because it was so hard for him to wrap his mind around the fact that I was going to be paying the bills. Like, we started fighting, like, a lot.
Oh yeah, that happens a lot. I had my 5-year relationship was like that, where he had a job when we met, and then he lost it, and I used to get an attitude every time I came home. And I'm like, why are you sitting on the sofa? Like, damn it, find something to do. So it does really bring about the demise of a lot of relationships when you feel like somebody, it's not intentional, but in your subconscious, like, it creeps in because you're carrying the bulk of everything, you know.
And I think for women, when you think about that, even though we're pretty much in the masculine all the time, we kind of feel like we flip-flop. But for men, they're just like totally masculine, and then you put them in their feminine energy and they don't know what to do with it, and then they shut down. Because you got to think about it. If your woman's taking care of you and you're at home, most guys are going to look like, so what am I supposed to do? Clean the house? I'm supposed to watch the kids? I'll just sit here and be depressed because now I'm not a man and this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. When us as women will be like, "Would you at least you help me? At least I came home to a meal or something." And in their minds, they're like,
Mm-hmm. You're totally right, because a lot of us would be okay with that
and be happy. Right. Oh God, it was working. He cooked, and all I had to do was walk in, thank you, and he looking like, "Who you think
I ain't got to cook or clean the kitchen?"
No, like you'll love him for life. But men, because they've been conditioned to work like a slave, Lord, and it's just so but that's what we're taught. You got to work, and I bring you the money. And then when they're not in that position, it's like they're useless.
I disagree. I would not, unfortunately, want to come home. I don't care what you did in the house. You should have been out working. I don't like it. And I think I've been taking care of men all my life, and it pisses me off. Like, since my dating life. Even when I was dating my boyfriend for a year, I was going to school full time, working 2 jobs, keeping up with the bills, and he had no job. He would be playing the PlayStation when I got home. That pissed me off. I'd be like, "Good job." Finally, he got one at Waffle House, but he had already been so demasculated in my eyes. I felt like I was his mom. And I tried to. We even got robbed that year, and let me tell you why. He went to take the trash out during the daytime, and even the police was telling me that they didn't see him as much of a threat. So because he doesn't look like much of a threat. And like when he was walking back in, apparently he was not paying attention to his surroundings. And the guy like got him or something, like, like pushed him, kind of knocked him down or whatever to get in the house, stole our stuff. I think my boyfriend at the time tried to fight back with a knife, but ended up getting cut himself. I don't know. And then he said the guy had a gun, so he just let him take the stuff and then he left. And while I was sitting there, I was worried about him at first, and as longer I sat there, I was just like, I couldn't even, I shouldn't have said it. I shouldn't have said it, I shouldn't have thought it, but I'm sitting here thinking, you don't even have a job, you can protect the house. What you doing for me?
Jessica, you're breaking up really bad.
Oh, sorry. It's the storm. Am I still breaking up?
No, I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah. I was just saying that, it really made me mad. Like I realized I didn't see him as a man. I thought he wasn't strong enough to protect the household. He wasn't doing anything for me, any of that. So any man that, I don't care what you do at the house, I don't care if you cook, clean, all of it. No, I need you to work. And I'm just stuck in that mentality because I want somebody to take care of me for one. Or, we help each other, obviously, but don't just not be working. I can't do it. Sorry.
Anybody else?
Just reminded me of the storyline. Does anyone watch Insecure?
Yes.
Yeah, the first couple seasons with Issa and Lawrence. That story kind of reminded me of that, where he just couldn't get it together sitting on the sofa, and it just led to the demise of their relationship. And now that they're more on equal footing, you could see where it could go somewhere in the future. But,
It seems like that's also one of those situations where they needed to break up in order for both of them to really grow into who they need to be.
I agree.
I had one more thing I wanted to ask y'all about, though. Like at the end of the book, since we're talking about that part, his last sentence, the last paragraph is the questions for the relationship, who should be asking them. But then he talks about how if a man can answer yes, he's probably already in that harmonious relationship. But he says that if this is the case, then your woman has more than likely developed stronger faith, security, and pride in knowing that she is successful in being who she is and not necessarily what she can become. So is he, like the quote that the question I wrote off to the side is he saying that a good wife is a complacent one? Because I know we've talked about, the masculine energy. That's a subject that we're on now anyway. Like, is he saying that to be a good wife, you have to basically let all of that go and just be happy with where you are in the moment and not continue to strive for better? Like, I guess that's what I took from that. So I want to see what y'all thought about it.
Bullshit.
That's really what I got from it, though. It's
right.
Like,
No, and you're right. That's totally what he was saying. And but I'm gonna have to disagree with him on that.
I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. And maybe what he was saying was, instead of, because we're always striving to become a better person, a better wife, a better in our career or whatever, maybe he was saying, she's already secure in who she is, and it works that way. Like she's not constantly trying to become better for you. She's secure in who she is, so she can stand beside you because you're secure in who. I tried to make it work for him. I tried to make it work.
I tried to.
When I read it, what I got from it was she accepts who she is and not becoming this, what he's been talking about the whole book. You're not becoming your own leader and you don't need the black man. Like, we've been talking about the curse of the Willie Lynch. Maybe I interpreted it wrong, but that's how I got it. Like, she is okay with the embodiment of who she is and not what this system has made her become, which is an independent, strong black woman.
That definitely helps him more, Monique.
Like, seriously, that's what I got from it, because I'm not saying, because think about it, if you're okay with who you are, that doesn't mean you can improve yourself. Right. You can go to college, you can get a degree, you can work, you can do all of that. But I thought my interpretation was you're basically saying you don't need anybody. So you're okay with who you're becoming, and that's all you want to be, versus being actually who you are. You're a beautiful black woman. You deserve all this other stuff and not what this system has made you to be.
Right, because I was like, in the other case, a lot of us are going to have to end up in some re-education camps behind this jazz, because
I was like, is this why I can't keep a man?
Right.